This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. My name is Chris Blades, and before I get started today, I want to make sure I take the time out to remind you, as always, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast, make sure you never miss an episode, make sure I was on top when we drop our latest stuff. Also, if you could please as well, give us a 5-star rating, write us a nice review. It'd be very appreciated, very helpful. Also, if you guys like, if you guys dislike, the ways you can improve, all that fun stuff. And also, if you're on social media, we're on social media, so you can find us there, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss. And, the East might be in trouble. And by East, I mean the NBA. Because the NBA, well, I mean, officially back, not that it's been gone that long. I think it's been about, since, mid-October. So, I'd say, about 2 months. Somewhere, give or take. 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. So it hasn't been gone for that long, obviously, because the season ended so late. I think they were talking about in the Lakers Clippers game. This is the shortest turnaround in the history of professional sports in terms of from the last game to the beginning. The top of the three were the NHL, and I'm assuming some sort of strike situation or what have you. But like I said, very quick turnaround. So NBA hasn't been gone that long, but it is back for another season. And, again, the Nets played the Warriors. The Warriors basically just have Steph, because Clay is hurt. Draymond was out for this game. I already don't know how much that would have mattered. Obviously you got guys like Wiggins and Oubre that you hope, as the season progresses, they start to show more, but, I don't know how much you can expect to count on them, especially early on. Wiseman just a rookie. I don't think he had no preseason, no real tune-up game, just got thrown into the fire against against KD and Kyrie. And I'm playing alongside Steph. So again, there's only so much to expect from him in his first game. But as we kind of talked, I think I kind of touched on this before, and we'll definitely talk about this more in the next segment. But as was evident during the preseason, it still was true in this game Tuesday night. And that's offense is going to be a problem. Now, are they going to play the Golden State Warriors every night? No. So again, they're going to play better defenses. And they're also going to face better offenses because, again, outside of Steph, who was 7 of 21 in this game, no one else is a real threat. Like I said, Wiseman had a decent game, 19, 7 of 13, 6 rebounds, so that's not bad. But Kelly Oubre was 3 for 14. Wiggins was 4 for 16. There wasn't really a whole lot of scoring out there for the Warriors. So, again, that makes the Nets' defense look a little bit better. Due to the fact they were missing so many shots. They shot 37% from the field and 30% from the three-point line. Not all of that was because the Nets were playing great defense. Sometimes brothers just missing open shots because, that's what happens when you play worse teams. Sometimes they miss the open shots that the better teams don't. It happens. And like I said, so their numbers defensively look pretty good in this game, but again, that's going, and obviously some with those misses and things like that allowed them to get defensive rebounds, get on transition, run. They had some, I know the Warriors had, how many turnovers did they have? They had 18 turnovers, so again, that helps too. Extra possessions, some fast break opportunities, things of that nature. So, like I said, they're not going to play the Warriors every night. But, this is what their offense can look like in the first game of a 72-game season. Imagine what it'll look like in game 40 or game 70 or in the playoffs, something like that. It's only, in theory, you would think it's only going to get better, assuming health. But like I said, the big thing for the Nets is that every game they're going to go in with most likely two of the 3 or 4 best players on the court. Like I said, you don't have KD, who didn't have to do a whole lot today. Only played 25 minutes. I mean, Kyrie only played 25 minutes. They were up, like, basically the entire game. So there wasn't a whole lot. What were they up? It's like they were up 63 to 45 at half. And they came on and scored 36 more in the third quarter. So again, there wasn't a whole lot of reason to play those guys a lot of minutes, especially while you're trying to get your bodies ramped back up to play, seeing as these guys have missed so much time. Like, again, it's going to take some time to get them back into playing shape and things like that. Like I said, KD, 7 of 16, 22 points in 25 minutes, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Kyrie was even better, 10 of 16, hit 4 threes, 4 rebounds, 4 assists for 26 points in 25 minutes. So again, if these guys were playing 30 plus minutes, like if they played their normal, like say when you're playing a better team, they got to play somewhere probably between 35, 38 in the regular season, you would think, and maybe that's bumped up to 40-ish in the playoffs. Again, I don't know exactly how Steve Nash is going to do his rotations. Obviously, you saw with D'Antoni, like he was very much a short bench guy in Houston. Like I said, they played like the 7-8 guys they could trust, and that was about it. A lot of their guys played heavy minutes. So again, we'll kind of see how they kind of handle that moving forward. But like I said, if this is what KD's going to be, shoot about 50% from the field every game, then probably maybe shoot a few more threes because, like I said, he only shot 2. Like he's going to score 25 to 30 a night regularly. And the same thing for Kyrie. That's a little bit harder for him because he's a guard, a little bit shorter, things like that. But again, if he's on, like, there's no reason he couldn't score 30 a night. So, like I said, you're going to walk into just about every game with 2 guys that on a given night could not only just score 30, but could score 40 or even 50, as we kind of talked about. So, like I said, just knowing that coming in makes things a lot easier for you, and then that makes things a lot easier for some of the other guys around you. Like Joe Harris hit 2 threes today. Karras came off the bench. He shot a lot because it seems like the second unit, they're just letting him do his thing. So they're going to have to figure that out because, again, the offense can't just be like Karras ISO or do a high pick and roll every time down. You have to get other guys involved a little bit more to take some of the pressure off Karras. But he had 20 points in this game as well, hit 3 threes. So again, as they kind of configure their rotations out a little bit more, and they tinker with some things and change up some things, you have 3 guys that can score. Like I said, Karras is a third option, is probably one of the better third options in the league. And that doesn't even count for guys like Joe Harris that can knock down 5, 6, 7 threes in a game. Shamrock that can knock down a similar amount of threes in a game. Spencer, who can score 20 points in a night. And like I said, their offense, it's going to be flowing. Like I said, if they just have an average defense this year, they could very well win the East. Because that's how good their offense can be on any given night. Not going to be that way every given night. I don't think they're going to score 125, 130 points every game. But they could. And that, like I said, that's the scary thing. There's not that many teams in the league that can say that just on any given night, like, oh, they can go out and score 130. Like, again, it's like, but the Warriors were with KD there. Like, any given night, like, they could go out there and just drop 70 and a half on you. Like, and there's just, like, nothing you can do about it. Like, again, it's not like they were getting wide open shots. Like, Kyrie, KD, they were hitting tough shots, hitting pull-ups, hitting contested jumpers. But, again, they're great at hitting those kind of shots. So, there's not really a whole lot you can do. So, again, that's going to be an interesting thing to pay attention to as we go on. It's just, like, how good is this defense going to be? Because, again, that's the big thing, is that they really don't have any, like, one great defense. Like, KD, was a better defensive player with the Warriors. So see how that carries over after being off for a little while. But they don't have, like, one, like, great defensive guy on their team, per se. Like, yeah, when you look even on their bench, like, you don't have a guy that's like, oh, this is a lockdown defender. This guy could be a lockdown defender. Or, like, again, just a really good on-ball defender, something like that. Like, there's guys that could be that. There's no definite on their team. That's kind of what was the concern coming in, is like what the defense is going to look like. And again, if they're scoring 130 points a game, it might not matter. But again, against better teams, you have to play a little bit better defense. So that'll be the interesting thing to pay attention to, because again, the offense should be there most nights. Like I said, that should be the one side of the floor they don't have to worry about most nights. Just making sure they're engaged on the defensive end. But for the Warriors side of things, I mean, it's going to be a long season for Steph. Let me just say that. Like, this team is not good. It's not like the players aren't really going to get that much better. I don't really know what they do, because again, this team was configured with Steph and Clay returning, not just Steph. So again, without Clay, that's a significant hit for this team. Like I said, Clay would be shooting some of these Andrew Wiggins, Kelly Oubre shots, and I think more times than not, he's going to shoot better than 4 of 16 or 3 or 14. And granted, I imagine those guys are going to as well, but just generally speaking, he's not going to shoot that poorly most nights. And so that's again, the team was designed with him being a part of it, so without him, it's just Steph and some guys. Like I said, they had a guy out there in 95. I had no idea who he was. Juan Toscano Anderson. Never heard of him before a day in my life. So that's fun. Maybe was he on the? I guess he was on the Warriors last year. I really don't know. Yeah, he played on the Warriors he was on the Warriors for 13 games last year. I guess towards the end of the season. Yeah, obviously this was like pre-bubble. They didn't get to go to the bubble. So again, never heard of him before today, and he was out there getting a lot of run for these guys. So that tells me all I need to know about the state of the Warriors at this point. So that's unfortunate. But heading on to the second game, Lakers-Clippers. This one, interesting one. Obviously, it was a ring night for the Lakers. They didn't drop the banner because they wanted fans to be there. Everybody got their rings, though, so that's nice. And the no banner drop, they're saving that for when the fans show up. And in this one, again, much like they did last year, the Clippers came out and did what they had to do to show that, like, hey, we can compete with the Lakers. Again, that didn't really manifest into anything. Especially playoff-wise last year. So I guess that's kind of where everyone's at with the Clippers at this point is like, hey, can they do this for an entire season and into the playoffs? So like I said, they've shown spurts and they've shown moments of like, oh, this team could be really good. But it's like, it's enough talking about it, they have to prove it to us. So again, you won't do that until the regular season's over. So that's the unfortunate part for them is that even like, again, they could beat the Lakers every time they play during the regular season. No one's going to care. Because we've seen what they've done. We see what they did in the postseason last year. So until that happens, they have to prove it to us. So, again, this game was interesting because it was back and forth. The Clippers came out hot, had 39 points in the first quarter. Then the Lakers came back, only gave up 17 in the second quarter. They scored 35. So I think it was like a 2-point game heading into half. Then the Clippers kind of extended the lead towards the end of the third quarter, and then they were just able to hold on down the stretch in the fourth. Led a lot by Paul George. I think they said he had like 20. I don't forget exactly what the exact number was, but I know he did a lot of his scoring in the second half. 26, that's what I said. I wasn't sure for 26 or 27. But 26 of his 33 came in the second half. He finished the game 13 of 18, 5 of 8 from 3. He was great. Kawhi shot a lot, did not shoot that efficiently, was 1 of 8 from 3, and 10 of 26 from the field. But he had 26 as well. Serge added 15, looking like a good little pickup for them. Pat Bev hit a couple threes. Zubac had some good minutes off the bench. Lou Will had his normal good minutes off the bench. So that was good. That was a good look for them because again, some of the new guys you're trying to see how they fit in. For the Lakers, I mean, LeBron had an alright game. AD had an alright game. Schroeder had a lot of rebounds. 12, had 8 assists, but scoring-wise, he was inefficient, 5 of 15, 2 of 5 from 3. Montrezl came off the bench, had a good game, 17 and 10 off the bench, so I mean, that's what you kind of want him to do. But, yeah, in this one, it just seemed like the Lakers were a little bit, like, I don't say hungover, but just like a little bit out of it from the ring ceremony. Like, they weren't that engaged coming out. Obviously, in the second quarter, they tried. And they got back into the game. Like the Clippers were up 22, I think, at some point in that quarter. And then by the end of it, they were only up 2 heading into the half, which is, again, not where you want to be. But again, that's the kind of the way the Lakers can go. Was that like even last year? Like, because again, when they wanted to lock in, like they were tough to beat. Hence why they won the finals. So again, it wasn't the greatest game, but at the end of the day for the Lakers, it's about the end result, not like the how they look in the beginning of the season. Coming off the finals, again, having just played their last game a couple months ago. A lot of these guys are probably going to be working themselves into shape. Like, again, AD and LeBron didn't even play that much. LeBron only played 28 minutes in this one. So, look when you look at Paul George played 36, Kawhi played 34, excuse me. Like I said, they weren't, not to say they weren't trying to win, because, again, you obviously play to win the game, but they weren't going as hard as they could have with the minutes. Even AD only played 31. So again, it's not like they were doing everything they could to try to win the game. In my opinion, again, you play LeBron James 28 minutes, and it's a relatively close game. It doesn't show them that you're actually trying to go out there and win. Again, they're trying to work their way through it. Again, come mid-season, come end of season, if the Lakers are still struggling, then that's a different story. But again, also in this game, I think one thing that definitely shows that some of the size that they're missing, or that they lost, and whether it's JaVale, obviously he was kind of bad by the playoffs, but like he was efficient and decent for them during the regular season. Dwight, obviously, some of that size is now gone. Like Marc Gasol isn't, like, he only played 12 minutes in this game. Like I said, he's good, like IQ wise and like with passing and things like that, but like he's slow and old. Not really a whole lot you can do there. And then like when Montrez is in and there's no AD, like there's just not a whole lot of size on the floor. So again, I know late in the fourth quarter, like the Clippers got like 3 or 4 offensive rebounds in a row, one possession. Just the Lakers just didn't have a guy in there that could get a rebound. And some of them were long rebounds, some of it was Pat Bev, and other guys going for 50-50 balls. So again, that's maybe some that's effort more than it is size. But again, that's I think going to be an issue for them. Again, Montrez had double-digit rebounds in this game, so it's not like they weren't able to get it. Schroeder, like I said, had 12 rebounds in this game. So they found guys to get rebounds. But again, the lack of size is definitely going to hurt them, whether it's like in the paint, protecting the rim, whether it's grabbing rebounds, whether just like on the wing. Like again, their defense isn't going to be as good as it was last year, in my opinion, because of the lack of athleticism and size that they had out there on the perimeter. Like I said, you still got the KCPs and the Carusos of the world. Like I said, there's obviously they didn't have Avery Bradley in the bubble, but no Avery Bradley that he was big for them during the year. Wesley Matthews didn't really look that great in his minutes, so that's not what you want to see, because he was kind of going to be an Avery Bradley replacement, and like I said, he didn't look that good. I'll see about that. Like I said, Montrez, the defense isn't his thing, so that was the thing. Like when you brought your bigs off the bench last year, you bring in like a Dwight. And like I said, that's defense, rebounding, like that's his thing. And like Montrez, he can score and he can grab some rebounds, but defensively, that's not really what he's known to do. So you're going to struggle in that regard if AD is ever off the floor for extended periods of time. Like I said, when he was out, you could plug in Dwight, you could plug in JaVale. And like I said, the defense wouldn't be as good, but it still wouldn't be that bad. Like I said, if Montrez or Markieff or even like Marc Gasol at the 5 with AD out, like that's not really going to do a whole lot for your rim protection. And plus, like again, those guys, Markieff is different, but out on the wing, Montrez and Marc Gasol, they're too slow to guard people. So that's going to be a problem. So again, still early. You're not going to make any sweeping assessments based off of one game. But like I said, there's some things they definitely need to work on. And again, with the Clippers, they need to work on some of their consistency, because again, they showed this early in the season against the Lakers opening night last year. But again, didn't manifest itself into anything come playoff time. So again, you're not gonna make bold statements. Well, I mean, people are, and people did, and people will tomorrow or today when you guys are hearing this. But again, I don't choose to do that, because again, it's not worth it after one game. But speaking of that, seeing as the season's about to get into full swing on Wednesday, I thought I'd give some of my predictions, like MVP, Rookie of the Year, Most Improved, Defensive Player of the Year, things like that. On top of like potential finals preview, I think some of the like surprising, disappointing teams, things like that nature. Like I said, we'll discuss most of that after this break. So stay right there.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And we're back here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast podcast network. So, we'll start with some of the awards and my predictions for some of the awards, because I know that's what a lot of people like to do on these things, to see how, right they are. I don't really care about being right or wrong. It's just my own personal opinion on these kind of things. So I'll start with MVP. Obviously, the popular pick has been Luka. And, that would be, because you're assuming LeBron, Anthony Davis are probably going to cancel each other out, right? Unless, one of them is just otherworldly great. But again, if LeBron couldn't get it last year with Anthony Davis on the roster, I don't really know how he's going to get it. So like I said, those two will probably out. Steph's probably going to be out just because, he would get it if, he carries this Warriors team to, a decent record, but, I don't think that'd be good enough for him to do that. Giannis, I don't think they could give him a third MVP in a row, because, again, I don't know how much better he'd have to get in order to get a third MVP in a row. It's kind of where we're at with it. Because again, it's not like he's Jordan, where it was he's obviously the best player in the league every year. Or even a Mike Trout situation where he's obviously the best player in baseball every year. Again, you would argue if Giannis even the best player in the NBA currently. Like I said, he won the MVP back-to-back years, but you could argue if he's the best player even in the NBA currently. So like I said, I don't think he's that good to where he would get 3 in a row. But again, if he has a great season, who knows? Maybe some of the financial stability will help him out. Said similar thing with Harden, because again, he's doing all kind of mess, so I don't think anybody would vote for him. Don't even know what team he's going to be on. As the season continues. Like I said, apparently he's going out partying, no mask, trying to get traded, things like that. So allegedly, again, that's why he's doing it. We really don't know, but in a situation where I don't think, again, if he has another great season, maybe he could, but I don't think he'll get it. So you're looking through the options. Luka seems like a very, I don't want to say obvious, but a very reasonable option. Because again, he's going to be without KP for the beginning of the season, I believe. So if he's able to keep the team afloat during that time, then again, if they end up being a top 4 seed in the West, probably lowest thing I would say, Russ wanted a 6, but he had to average a triple-double to do it. But again, Luka could have very easily not easily, but he could very much average a triple-double this year, or any year really going forward. That was kind of talked about. He was already great last year, so it's hard to really say how much better he's going to get. But if the team has more success, then I imagine he'd put up similar type of numbers to last year, where he put up 29, 9, and 9. Maybe he's around those numbers again. He's probably going to have to be with KP out. And like I said, the team's successful, then he could get it. Another guy I know another common one is Dame, because people think the Blazers, they're back healthy now, they'll be better, and maybe. But also, again, we'll kind of see how the team kind of gels together. Because again, we're talking about counting on Zach Collins to stay healthy, which has literally never happened. And stay healthy and be good. Nurkic was good once he came back healthy, but again, he's not the same guy, especially not defensively, that he was pre-injury. He had a Covington, which I think should help. But again, as you saw in the Thunder series, against quick guards, he's not an elite one-on-one defender. Again, on some of the bigger guys, or he's great in help, and he's got great length and with wingspan and things like that. So great help defender. He's great in passing lanes, things like that. But on just pure one-on-one and staying in front of guards and things like that, quick guys, that he was not good at that at all against the Thunder. That's why the Thunder, that series went 7, is because they had no one to guard Shea or Dennis, relatively speaking, off the dribble. And then even Chris Paul, he would get switched onto him and he could just do what he wanted. So, like I said, not a bad defender, but an elite one-on-one defender. On ball, not really that great. So again, and then that's another situation. So again, people think Dame could get it, because if the Blazers are better, then it's probably because of Dame. And so that's another reasonable guess. I know some people saying Anthony Davis. Again, similar concept is if LeBron kind of takes a step back, let's say AD do his thing, the Lakers are good again. Hey, who knows? Another one I think is that if the Sixers are good, if they're 2-3 seed in the East level good, you could pick one of them, probably Embiid, but you could probably pick one of them as a potential MVP candidate, just because I don't think they're definitely not going to pick Kyrie, no matter how good of a season he has. And then KD, I don't think he's going to, 1, care enough, and 2, try to do enough to get the MVP. He's not going to be out there so he can average 30 plus a night kind of thing. He's going to do what he did with the Warriors, just again, averages 25 to 28, somewhere around there, and just be efficient. And they win a lot of games, ideally. So again, I don't think he'll play hard enough through the regular season to win the MVP. So like I said, that's why a guy like Luka, due to the fact that he's going to have to play hard, he's a little bit younger, And also, again, you can see the narrative starting to be pushed for him with the Christmas Day matchup against the Lakers and him being a prominent feature in a lot of like the promotional stuff you see on the TV. See with like the commercials for the NBA, things like that. Like he's very much a part of it. Even as a third-year guy, so was Zion, but I don't think Zion's at the point yet where he would get the MVP nod. But yeah, it's just a situation where I could see Luka very easily. If he has a good season, obviously he has to have a good season and stay healthy. But if he does, I can very easily see him getting the nod from the media. So yeah, it's an interesting one. We'll see about that. Rookie of the Year, that's an interesting one because, again, it's all kind of situational. Like, before the season, you would have thought Zion, but then he got hurt. And then John Morant was good. Helped the Grizzlies compete for a playoff spot. Obviously, they didn't end up getting in, but they helped compete for a playoff spot. He ended up winning it. Obviously, then you saw rookies like Kendrick Nunn play well, Tyler Hero play well. Especially Tyler Hero definitely played well towards the end of the season. So again, it's a situation where you don't really know with the rookies. So again, a lot of it's about opportunity. A lot of it's about playing time. Again, what the coaches do and don't allow them to do. What kind of opportunities they do and don't have. So that's a kind of tough spot. But again, with the lack of stars on the Warriors currently, you could see a guy like James Wiseman getting it if he has a good year. You could see a guy like if Tibbs lets him do his thing, guy like Obi Toppin, because the next gonna have to score, or somebody's gonna have to score. So he'll get some credit for that. My pick currently is LaMelo, just because again he's gonna have those highlights every game that draw your attention. Whether it's the flashy passes or the alley-oops or different things, like he's gonna have those splash plays every game that will get people's eyes and get people's attention. Be like, oh yeah, no, and then as long as he's shooting well, scoring enough and getting the assistant rebounds, like I think he should be able to do most games as he progresses throughout the season. I think he's a guy that could very easily win the award, but again, we'll kind of see how that goes. Let's see, Defensive Player of the Year. I think this might be. Well, I think it's going to be. Again, I don't know if they're going to give it to Giannis again, and I don't think Kawhi's going to care enough. So I think this could be like an AD Ben Simmons one, because I think like Ben Simmons was one of the best defenders in the league last year. And I don't really see any reason for him not to want to, stake a claim in that mantle. Obviously, you're going to have guys, like I said, like a Giannis or like a Rudy Gobert, who's going to want to compete and hope their reputation as great defenders. But, again, when we're talking about a guy like Giannis, like, his best asset is his help defense. Like, it's not like he was locking down guys one-on-one, relatively speaking. Like, again, you can see Ben Simmons guard the best guards or guard the best forwards. Again, you see Anthony Davis, he'll guard bigs, he'll guard guards. Like, he doesn't really matter. So yeah, that's why I say I see the two of them competing for that personally. Again, I'm just one person with an opinion, but that's my opinion. Also, again, Bam, I think, could sneak his way into that one potentially. For me, at least, I think he could sneak his way into that one potentially. Sixth Man of the Year is an interesting one. Like I said, I think Karras has a very good shot at getting it. There's going to be a lot of good guys coming off the benches for some teams. Gallo's another one with the Hawks. Again, if the Hawks are any good and if he can score anywhere close to the way he did in OKC, that could be very beneficial to the Hawks. And like I said, that could be the key to helping him get it. Because again, with guys like, even though again Montrez did win it with Lou Will on the team last year, but again with guys like Montrez and Dennis, I feel like they could potentially cancel each other out. If Dennis stays in the starting lineup, then that doesn't really matter. You're just talking about Montrez. But again, you have to see about that one. Again, he's obviously going to come off the bench. He could be another one if he's having 17 and 10 like he had tonight. Then he could be competing for that award again. But I don't know if he's got the Lou Will effect. Obviously, he's got the effect of him where people think, he's a really good sixth man. I don't know if he's got the Lou Will effect of every year you think he's going to come in and just, all right, it's his award to lose. I don't know if Montrez is there yet, but we'll see. So like I said, some definitely good option. I think Karras is a very, I'll probably go with him personally, but he's a very sneaky one. I'm trying to think what else. Coach of the Year, I'm not going to, I was going to think about doing that, but I was not going to, only because it basically just goes to the coach that team was most improved or most surprising. Again, you could argue it doesn't always go to the best coach per se. I mean, that goes for all sports. Just to be which team overachieved? Boom, there's your Coach of the Year. So like I said, I don't, if the Hawks are good Maybe Lloyd Pierce could get it. I'm trying to think who else. Like, the Blazers are good. Maybe like a guy like Terry Stotts could get it. I'm trying to think who else. Maybe Ty Lue, if the Clippers end up being the 1 seed, maybe he could get it. Like I said, I don't expect, or maybe even Monty Williams. That's a good one. I think he might be my sneaky one. Just I expect the Suns to be better. Like I said, if they're a top 5, a top 4 seed, that might be enough to push Monty Williams into that race. Like I said, I don't like it could be Steve Nash, but like the Nets are supposed to be good, so I don't know if that'll account for anything. Like normally, like I said, it goes to the overachieving team. That's why guys like Billy Donovan and like Nick Nurse, they were high for consideration because no one expected their teams to be as good as they were. Like I said, that's normally how these things go. Like the coach of the year generally goes to the team that you're like, oh, this team, I didn't expect this team to be that good. So yeah, I'll give him the award. So like I said, I think Monty Williams is a good choice for me. Like I said, there's so many coaches you could pick, whether it's going to be like teams you think are going to overachieve, or just like teams that you think are going to be really good. Like I said, like a Ty Lue, like a Steve Nash, like a Eric Spoelstra. Like again, if you think these teams are going to be good, you can vote for them. So again, that's just my 2 cents on that. What else? I guess I'll do most improved. I think that one is again another interesting one. But I think because of the fact that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has no other real scoring options on his team, like. He led the team in scoring. He was leading the team in scoring before the bubble. I don't know if he officially held on to that title. But again, without Chris Paul there, without Gallo there, someone's got to make up those points. And obviously, maybe Horford could help with that. Bazley improving. He's another guy that I think could definitely like double his numbers, kind of thing. To the point where like, oh, okay. But also a lot of it will be opportunity, having more opportunity, getting more playing time. But his guy could easily double his numbers from where they were last year. Easy average like 9-10 rebounds, like 4 or 5 assists, like 10 to 15 points, somewhere around there. Potentially, again. So again, he could be in the conversation. Like I said, Shai could easily average well over 20 points this year, which may be enough to get him into that conversation. Guys like Michael Porter Jr., if he picks it up defensively and also again gets more starting caliber minutes, even though I thought he was coming off the bench in the preseason, so that was a little interesting. But if he gets more starting caliber minutes, and does what he has to do with those minutes, i.e. score the basketball, that could again boost the Nuggets ceiling. He's a candidate for that. I know some people think some of the Spurs guys like Lonnie Walker, Derek White, I think people think they could be in it as well, but I think I'll go a little biased because I am a Thunder fan. I think I'll go with Shai, just because, again, someone has to make up for the scoring that left, and I think he's obviously the most reasonable candidate he's seeing as he's going to have the ball a lot. So, like I said, I think that'll help him when he's going to have to be scoring 20 plus every night for the team to even be competitive most nights. Like I said, that's going to help his case for that award. And then lastly, like I said, some of the predictions for the season. As of right now, out west, even though I think it's going to be competitive, and again, even though I said that I think the Lakers are the best team on paper, and I think they got better in the this offseason. Still got to come together, and I think it should be together by playoff time. But I don't think they're going to be like as good during the regular season per se. Which again that's not new for LeBron. Like, he doesn't always care about getting the 1 seed. I think he won it last year because of all the Clippers talk. But now that he's got the ring, I don't think he's going to care as much. If they're the 2 or the 3, maybe even I don't know about the 4, but like if they're 2 or the 3, like I don't think he'll just be like, hey, whatever, it is what it is. Especially with like the no fans thing. I don't know how much home court advantage is really going to matter other than for the travel. So, like I said, I still think out west, it's the Lakers until somebody proves me wrong. Because again, you want to say the Clippers, I got to see it. You want to say the Nuggets, I got to see it. You want to say the Blazers, I got to see it. Who else out west? Like even the Suns, like they'll be better, but I don't know if they'll get to the finals better. Who else? Like I said, the Rockets. Got to see how they come together and see if James Harden's still on the team. That'll be important. I said the Pelicans probably too young. The Mavs probably, again, I don't know if they got enough around Luka. He'll be good, but I don't know if they have enough to compete for that. Like they should get to the playoffs, but I don't know if they have enough to compete for a conference championship yet. So like I said, teams you're talking about really are like the Nuggets, Clippers, and you said it's just a wait and see approach especially with the Clippers. Like I got to see something from them. But like I said, I still think the Lakers, as of right now, should get out the West, assuming health and everything. And then out East, I know obviously the popular team will be Milwaukee. People will say the Heat again, because obviously they did just make it to the finals. People say the Sixers. But my thing is that if the Nets can play defense, they're going to be tough to beat in a series. Because they have KD and they have Kyrie. Like, that matters. Like, generally speaking, the best player in the series can help you win that series. And like I said, there's going to be many series where they're not going to have the best player. They may have the second best player, depending on who they play. Like I said, some of the top teams in the East, like, again, Kyrie's not better than Giannis, not better than Embiid, those type of guys. But again, you could argue if he's at the same level as, like, Tatum. And not to say that, like, Kyrie's, like, bad or anything, but again, he hasn't really done a whole lot or accomplished a whole lot without LeBron by his side. I mean, he's made the playoffs with the Celtics, but hasn't a whole lot of postseason success without LeBron, so you got to see some of it. Obviously, KD's had a lot of postseason success, both with Golden State and without Golden State, so he'll be all right. But again, like I said, I think if their defense can be somewhat average at the least, like if it's good, then definitely. But if it's just even average, as long as it's not bad, then like I said, the Nets offensively are going to score 120 plus points a lot of nights. That's going to be well more than enough to beat a lot of teams, even like I said, even at the top of the East. Because like I said, they have guys that can make those tough shots that you need to be able to make come postseason time. Again, the defense get better, the players get better, so the shots get tougher, and you need guys that can make those shots. That's why the Bucks have struggled in the playoffs, because their best player can't make those shots. That's why the Sixers have struggled in the playoffs, because their best player, well, Embiid's their best player, but their second best player can't make those shots, can't even take those shots. Like I said, so that's an issue. Again, that's why the Heat got to the finals. Their best player, Jimmy Butler, was making those shots. Goran Dragic, he was making those shots. Bam was making those shots. Tyler Hero was making those shots. Like, they were doing those things. And like I said, KD and Kyrie, coupled with LeVert, coupled with like guys like Joe Harris that can knock down threes, Sham that can knock down threes, Spencer that can still handle the ball on his own as like a fourth option kind of thing. Initiate the offense if they're ever in like foul trouble or anything like that. I said, just offensively, they got a lot of talent on that roster. So again, if they can just lock in to be an average-ish defense, especially come playoff time, like they're going to be a tough team to beat. So like I said, in my opinion, Lakers, Nets is going to be the finals matchup. But again, could be wrong. We'll have to see how it goes. But just I guess quickly, I'll just go through a couple of teams I think to watch out for. Out West, Suns. Again, because I liked the Suns before. They looked great in the bubble. Obviously, they brought in Chris Paul and some other vets to help with that young nucleus that they had there. And like Ayton, Booker, Bridges, guys like that. So again, you want to see what kind of leadership rubs off on them from Chris Paul, because you saw how much of an effect it had on the young guys on OKC. So, like I said, a team that wasn't expected to make it to the playoffs got in, and not only did they get in, they pushed the Rockets that people thought were a championship contender to 7 games and could have easily won that 7th game. Like I said, Dort just sidesteps the James Harden closeout. Like, we were maybe talking about a completely different situation. Maybe James Harden's already gone from the Rockets. Who knows? So that's the team I'm watching out for in the West. And then the team I'm watching out for in the East, it's a little bit tougher. But I'm kind of curious how the Wizards are going to do. Because obviously Bradley Beal's out there by himself. But I was at least got him running mate this year. I'm not going to say they're going to be like a top 3, top 4 seed or whatever. But I'm kind of curious to see how they're going to look with Bradley Beal with another all-star, all-NBA caliber player alongside of him. Because again, last time they had John Wall and he was healthy and they were in the playoffs, like they were a very good team. So like I said, he's been without him for basically 2 years now. And like I said, now that he has somebody of that caliber back, I'm kind of curious to see how the Wizards do. Again, the rest of the team is alright. But again, they still got Bertans, he's a good shooter. If Hachimura takes the next step, if Denny is again, he's only going to be a rookie, but he's as good as people think he can be. Things like that. Like, they could be a competitive team. I'm not going to say they're going to be like a top 3 seed, because again, I don't think they're better than Bucks, Nets, Celtics, Heat, Sixers, teams like that. But again, they could be a very competitive 6 seed. So again, those are down to just 2 of the teams I'm going to be watching out for in both conferences. So again, just some of my predictions. Things that are out there. You guys, obviously I know everybody has their own predictions, so feel free to reach out to us and tell us what yours are for this upcoming NBA season. But after we come back here from this next break, the Steelers. We gotta talk about it. Like, the Rams losing to the Jets was supposed to be like the big upset, the big story from the weekend in terms of a team that like shouldn't have lost a game, losing a game. And then Monday night happened. So we'll talk about that, kind of what's wrong with the Steelers, how it kind of came about, like what they can do to fix it, or if they can fix it, things like that. We will discuss right after the break. So stay right there.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So, the Steelers. We gotta talk about it. I'm not really sure if they just thought that, Ryan Finley starting in this game will be fine. We won't lose to Ryan Finley. And, I mean, they probably shouldn't have lost to Ryan Finley. But this is where we're at right now. And this is where we're at. The Steelers were defeated by the Bengals. What was it? 23-17? 27-17. Didn't mean to shortchange you, Bengals. 27-17. In a game that, the Steelers just never really were all that close, which is actually kind of embarrassing to say. When you think about it, they were down 17-0 at half. They couldn't stop Giovanni Bernard in the second quarter for whatever reason. Can't really explain to you why that was, but they couldn't do it. And thus, like I said, we're here now when we're talking about how the Steelers lost to the Bengals. At the time, 2-10-1 Bengals with their third, I don't know, because he was their second, but then he got benched for Brandon Allen, and then Brandon Allen got hurt, so Ryan Finley was back in. But like I said, it was bad, and a lot of it stemmed from the fact that their offense is still bad. And again, it's kind of crazy because in this game they actually ran the ball slightly well. Benny Snell ran the ball well, and that's usually been their big issue, that their running game has been poor. So it was all right, well, we got a running game in this one. Why wouldn't we be able to, actually be able to do some things? And it's because the passing game, again, remained inefficient. 20 of 38 for Big Ben for 170 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Only got sacked 1 time, but he was not good. Taking a lot of unnecessary deep shots. Wasn't hitting on any of them. And that's, again, you're punting. Like I said, they basically spent most of the first half punting. They punted on every drive in the first half. They didn't turn the ball over. So, again, they had 3... Well, wait, hold on. They had 1, 2, 3... They had 5 punts in the first half and 3 turnovers. The first one was a literal big one because it was... Well, no, let's take it back. I'm thinking the second one. Because the first one was a Big Ben fumble. So that one set up a field goal. Because they recovered on the Steelers' 20-yard line. Then the second one was a big one because before this drive, the Bengals had just gone down and missed a field goal, so it was only 3-0. So I was okay, maybe the Steelers, if they ever figure things out, they can get it back. But then Big Ben tries to throw a shallow cross to Juju on 3rd and 7. Von Bell reads it the entire way. If he would have pumped and seen Chase Claypool breaking wide open over the middle, because Von Bell just came straight down on the crosser because he knew that's where they were going to throw the ball, because they don't like throwing the ball down the field because Ben can't hit it. So it's hey, everything's going to be around the line of scrimmage. So that he throws it. Juju tries to, do his thing, tuck and run. Von Bell lays him out The ball pops up in the air. It is picked up and then recovered. Picked up by the Bengals, then like returned to about like 38-yard line. And this was pretty interesting due to the fact that supposedly the Bengals and the Bills have been sort of kind of motivated by Juju, because he normally posts like TikTok dances on teams, like the team's midfield logo before games, apparently. And I definitely saw the video before this Bengals game, and it was funny because he kind of got knocked out right by the midfield logo, so that, some sort of irony there. But again, supposedly Bengals and Bills players were motivated by, they're like, not, I don't know how much motivation you get from a player dancing on your logo, but apparently, like, I know Josh Allen in his pregame huddle, he said that they can do all the dancing and whatever, we'll just, like, win the game or whatever he said. Using some more curse words in there, but again, the point was that, like, they acknowledged the fact that this happens, and they're like, all right, let them have the dancing, like, we'll handle the rest. And clearly, Von Bell did his best to handle Juju, and it worked. So like I said, they fumble there. That turns into a Giovanni Bernard touchdown run. That was like right before the end of the first half. So like, again, not exactly the greatest momentum swing heading to the second quarter. Not in the first half, end of the first quarter, I should say. Not the greatest momentum swing heading to the second quarter. Then the next drive, all right, they put together a nice little drive, 10 plays. Didn't really go that far. Only went 17 yards. That's because of some penalties and really only just like one real first down because they ended up going backwards. And then he had a pass that was intercepted, intended for Juju. Don't really know what he was looking at. If I remember correctly on this play, Juju was not wide open. Was not open at all. Kenzie Alexander, I'm pretty sure he picked it off and then high-stepped, which was like the funniest part. Of it, he like high-stepped at like the 40-yard line. Because it was because he wasn't going to return it for a touchdown and clear. There was too many people in the way, but I've never seen a guy high-step like in the middle of the field. Just for like no apparent reason. But again, that's how much the Bengals clearly wanted to beat the Steelers in this game. 3 plays later, Bengals are in for another touchdown. So again, end of the half, 17-0, Steelers are down. And a lot of it isn't the defense's fault. Again, they're now back in the situation, much like last year, where the defense basically has to be perfect in order for them to win, because the offense is so bad. Like, and you thought, getting Big Ben back will help with that. And it did for the first couple games. Or the first half of the season, you could say, but now he's starting to look like an old, aging quarterback. And again, obviously, Tom Brady and the Drew Brees of the world have fooled us into thinking what old quarterbacks look like. Like, we saw what Philip Rivers looked like last year. He looks a little bit better this year, obviously, but we saw what he looked like last year. All the turnovers, and things like that. Now we're getting to see that with Ben. Again, it started out good, but the last few games, obviously, especially the losses, the offenses look bad, and the defense isn't as good due to attrition, because again they've lost Bud Dupree, they lost Devin Bush, the Spillane guy who was helping fill in got hurt. Vince Williams isn't playing. So again they're losing guys across the defense. So again, everybody healthy, yeah, the defense would probably still be fine. And I don't know if they even with the turnovers that they're probably able to force some field goal attempts instead of touchdowns. But because the defense has consistently been out there every week because their offense can't sustain drives at this point. And again, they're losing people, so the defense is now worse than it was previously. Now things are not going as smoothly for them as things were before. And like I said, that's what to be, because the defense basically has to be perfect now because the offense is so bad. So the second half comes, they get it together, they get a touchdown on their first drive, get a field goal on the next drive. So you're like, oh, okay, maybe the Steelers are starting to get it together. But then the Bengals get a touchdown drive to make it 24-10. Steelers come back with a touchdown drive of their own. So now it's 24-17. The second half, the defense definitely held up a lot better. They forced a lot more punts. But the big drive obviously was with like 2 minutes left. They get the ball back and they go 4 straight incomplete passes. And most of those and 3rd and 10 and 4th and 10 were both deep shots that were, the Claypool one, they probably should have called interference on it. But again, he was throwing into 4 people. I don't understand how that was the only guy open. And then, like I said, the James Washington one, he was never really, on 4th down, he was never really open either. It was just it was this is my thing. I hate when teams do this. And it's not just the Steelers thing. It's a general offense thing. All right, it is 3rd down. You know you're going for it. Why do you not run a play that, in theory, can pick it up half? That's, again, if you're on 3rd and 15, 3rd and 20, you wouldn't be, I mean, you may be trying to get the whole 20 yards, but normally you'd be trying, the idea, or I think a lot of thinking is like, oh, get half of it back. So again, it's 3rd and 10, you're going for it on 4th down, so again, make it so that it's a closer distance, so then there's more options for you to run. I said on 4th and 10, like, everything's gotta go, like, 10 yards at least. Like, you can't run a 5-yard pass play on 4th and 10 because you're not gonna get it, you're gonna get 5 yards. Now you can run a 5-yard pass play on 3rd and 10. Maybe you only get the 5 yards, or maybe you break it. Now or you break a tackle or something. Now instead of 4th and 5, it's 4th and 2 or 4th and 1. Like I said, that changes the play, but you have a lot more things open to you. But like I said, it was just a situation where they took the deep shot where they didn't really have to. And again, the same thing happened with the Jets in the Rams game. I mean, well, the Jets and Rams game. Like, they took a deep shot on 4th and 4 to Gerald Everett, and I'm like, it's 4th and 4. You don't need a touchdown. Like, there was still time left in the game. It's not like they were zeros, like it was about to be zeros on the clock. Like, you still had time left if you get the first down to run some more plays, or you could kick the field goal. But I said you don't need to go for the deep shot. And I said it just happens, and I'm just like, why is that the play? Again, I understand wanting to be aggressive, and again, if the guy's open, he's open. So I'm not saying to do that, but again, in the situation where on 3rd and 10 and 4th and 10, the guy wasn't open, it's like, couldn't you have run a play where you get 5, 6, 7 yards? So instead of being 4th and 10, it's 4th and 3. And again, that leaves you open to do a few more things, as opposed to 4th and 10. You can't, like half of your passing plays are cut off because they're like screens or slants or different things that aren't going to get you 10 yards, most likely. Because again, you're kind of limited in what you can call. But hey, that's what they decided to go with. It didn't work. And now the Steelers, after being 11-0, and not the best team, obviously, they were never, even while they were undefeated, they weren't really considered the best team in the AFC. That's always been the Chiefs. But now they've dropped to 11-3, and they're not even the second best team record-wise in the AFC. And we'll talk about who I think the second best team is in the AFC in the next segment. But like I said, at this point in time, they're not even the second best team record-wise. They are now behind the Bills, in part because of their loss to the Bills. At 11-3, again, they're tied with them technically, but because they lost to the Bills have the tiebreaker over them, so they're the 2 seed. And like I said, in like 3 weeks, the Steelers went from the 1 seed and playing for a bye to the 3 seed, and now potentially playing the Ravens maybe, or the Dolphins, or the Colts, who I believe they play this weekend, in the playoff game, as opposed to, again, having the first round bye, and then playing like the 4 seed, maybe they're playing like Tennessee or Cleveland or somebody. Again, not easy teams regardless, but again, at least you had the bye to kind of work things out and try to get some guys healthy, because a lot of the guys aren't really coming back this year. But yes, like I said, now they're in a completely different spot. Completely different. Oh, and yeah, also, so wait. So now they play the 5 seed because it's the 7 seed. No, take it back. They play the 6 seed. I was right. I was right. They would play 6 seed. So as of right now, they're playing the Colts, who, like I said, they play this weekend. So that's going to be a good test at home. So again, that'll be a good test for them. And right now, Indianapolis is favored, at least according to ESPN, because of how bad the Steelers have been playing recently. Again, how can you trust that offense at this point? And based on what you've seen in the last 3 games, even, I mean, going back further, because again, a lot of people were saying that they were the worst 11-0 team in like history or whatever. I don't know about all that. But again, their record was a bit of a mirage due to the fact that they had a lot of their wins were close. And not even like close, like, oh, like the Chiefs are winning games close, but like usually they're up and winning and they don't need like a last second drive or anything like that. Like multiple games, they had to get defensive stops at the very end or else they lose the game. Like multiple games. Like I said, that's not a sustainable model for success where you need defensive plays at the end of the game to hold on to a lead. Against the Ravens, you needed one. Against the Cowboys, you needed one. I think against the Ravens twice, both times you needed one, if I remember correctly. Even like I said, the Trace McSorley one, you needed a defensive stand there at the end. Oh no, okay, no, they held onto the ball. That one was a little bit different. But the first Steelers Ravens game, they forced an incompletion, I think in like the end zone to get that win. I'm trying to think some of the other earlier ones. Well, even like the Giants win first game, again, if Daniels doesn't just screw up in the red zone, maybe they lose that game. Yeah, they played the Jeff Driscoll Broncos earlier in the season and barely held them off. Like I said, the Broncos had the ball with a chance to take the lead. with under 2 minutes left. They weren't able to get a third or fourth down and short. And so like I said, a lot of their games were much more competitive than their 11-0 record would indicate up until that point. And now again, some of that's coming home to roost because of the fact that their offense isn't functioning as well and can't sustain drives and can't continuously get like chunk plays in the passing game and can't effectively or efficiently run the ball. Like I said, a lot of these things are catching up to the Steelers now, and you're seeing the results of that. Plus, like I think, again, after they lost the first game to Washington, people aren't afraid of them. And again, obviously the defense is getting worse. People aren't afraid of them anymore. Like they're not afraid of getting beat by the run. They're not afraid of getting beat deep because Big Ben doesn't throw that often, and when he does throw it, he's not throwing it accurately. So again, you're not really that afraid of getting beat deep, generally speaking. And like I said, their defense is getting worse, so it's not like they haven't turned into like a terrible defense or anything. They've only given up, the 27 was the most they've given up in the last 3 games. And again, a lot of that was predicated off of turnovers. Like I said, it's not like the Bengals were putting together a lot of full field drives. A lot of it was coming off of short fields, and a lot of that scoring came off of short fields and turnovers. Like almost, every single one of their possessions in the first half that led to scores was under 40 yards they had to go to get the score. And then even their touchdown drive, like they had put the one good touchdown drive in the second half. And then even their field goal, they didn't really have to do a whole lot after the Steelers turned it over on downs. Because, they got the Steelers 24. So, again, it's not like they were driving a lot. It's just that turnovers on downs set the defense up in bad spots. And because they're not elite anymore, they're still giving up points on those turnovers. Like before, you're like, oh, maybe they get the ball back. Or maybe they'll get a sack or something to push them out of field goal range, different things. Like that's not happening anymore, unfortunately. So they're not necessarily giving up touchdowns every time off a turnover, though they did a lot in this game. Like I said, the defense is just wearing down as the season goes on due to like injury or just fatigue, or just like I said, having to compensate for the offense now 2 years in a row. To compensate for a bad offense now 2 years in a row. Like I said, it's just hard to do that week after week after week just to like overcome a poor offense and being out on the field time and time again, just having to go 3 and out, punt. Like your offense is giving you or doing you no favors because they're not playing well. Because that's the position the Steelers are at this point. And like I said, I don't really know how you fix it. Because like I said, the people are still dropping passes. Eric Ebron went out with an injury in this game. Basically got hurt in like the first quarter, I think, didn't play most of the game. Like their running game, while better this week, and maybe it would be better if James Conner is back, still is very inefficient. Ben, especially recently, is still very inefficient. It's like, what do you do? Like, because you're not getting guys outside of James Conner, you're not getting guys back on offense. Like, the guys that you have are the guys that you've had most of the year. They're not performing as well. Like, defense, at least they have a reason or an excuse for why their play's falling off a little bit. Because, again, you just don't have enough starter quality players if you sustain a bunch of injuries to one position group. That's the way they've sustained a bunch of injuries to the linebacker position. Like, again, it's just hard to keep filling guys in. That's why I had to trade for Avery Williamson, because they knew they needed some help at the position because Devin Bush was hurt. Or maybe even, I forget if I'm pretty sure he got traded after Devin Bush got hurt, because he's been hurt for a while. Maybe they knew they needed some help, and then like I said, now the people that they were using for the help are also getting hurt. I know even Marcus Allen got banged up a little bit in the game. I think he still stayed in and stuff, but that's the safety that they're converted to linebacker because they needed somebody else to play linebacker and like their sub packages. So, like I said, the Steelers are in a bad spot right now. They got to figure some things out, and they're like the sad part is like they could easily end this season on a 5-game losing streak after being 11-0. Like I said, they got the Colts this week, not an easy game. Then they got the Browns next week. And like I said, that game could be for the NFC North. And at this point, I mean, as crazy as it sounds, would you put your money on the Steelers to beat the Browns right now? Like, maybe. But like I said, the offense is playing well. Their defense isn't great, but like the Steelers offense also isn't great. So like, which one do you trust more? And I mean, one of them has Myles Garrett. The other, like I said, who does the Steelers have on offense? Deontay Johnson, Juju, who I believe Twitter was saying, don't know if this is true. But Juju doesn't have a 100-yard game since AB left. He definitely doesn't have one this season. I'm pretty sure, but I don't know. Well, again, yeah, because he was kind of bad last year. Like, yeah, I mean, again, he was kind of banged up, I thought, a little bit too, but like his numbers were not that great last year. And like I said, that's only continued this year. Like, yeah, I'm looking through The highest amount of yards he has this year in a game is Dallas. He has 93 yards. And like I said, so if I go through his game logs from 2019, let me look through his game logs. Like I said, I know he missed some time. Oh no, he had one 100-yard game. Okay, so he has 100-yard games since like AB left. And I said AB has now been on 3 different teams since then, and he has like a 100-yard game once. I guess this was week 8. Again, that's when the Bros did like the 0 blitz on like 3rd and long for no apparent reason. Yeah, that was the Dolphins game where people thought they were actively tanking, and then obviously they got better, and now you see what they are this year. So he has 100-yard game in the last 2 years. It's like I said, who are you afraid of on the Steelers offense right now? Don't worry, I will wait. That's what I'm saying. Like, you're not afraid of anyone. On defense, you're still afraid of TJ Watt. You're afraid of Minka Fitzpatrick, like some of the corners to a degree. Like, all right, yeah, there's still guys to be afraid of. Cam Hayward. Offensively, who scares you? Who are you worried about if you're a defense coming in? Like Claypool, maybe because of the size and the speed. I know Deontay Johnson's like good after catching stuff, but like, are you really afraid of getting beat on a bunch of crossing routes and slants and stuff? Same with Juju. Like, again, it's not like these guys are killing you down the field. And they say, who are you afraid of? Eric Ebron? Like, James Conner, Benny Snell? Like, who are you afraid of? And I said, I don't think they have a guy right now, and that's why their offense is where it is. So, like I said, very bad loss for the Steelers. Like I said, in a weekend where the Rams lost to the Jets, that might not even be the most disappointing loss of the season. I mean, of the weekend. Because at least the Jets have been playing better recently. Like, Sam Darnold's in there. Like, they got some stars in there. And things like that. Like, the Steelers lost to a quarterback that got benched for a quarterback that's now hurt. So again, he was second string, got benched for the third string quarterback, and now have to come back in and play because the third string quarterback got hurt. Like, and that's who the Steelers lost to. On top of the fact they didn't have Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd was out early in the game. So again, it's not like they even have like their full alignment of weapons. They just couldn't stop Giovanni Bernard. I mean, you can't stop Giovanni Bernard in the year of our Lord 2020. You deserve to lose. So here we are. And that being said, we got to talk about who's the best team the second best team, I should say. Like I said, second best team in the AFC now, because clearly it's not the Steelers anymore. Like I said, maybe they'll figure some things out, they get it together, but at this point in time, I don't think anybody in good faith can say the Steelers are the second best team in the AFC. So who is it? We will discuss right after this break. Stay right there.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
So, when you look around the AFC, like I said, as of right now, even though, like many people are saying, the Chiefs are kind of playing with fire because they keep winning close games. But again, they keep winning. But again, their close games are different than like the Steelers' close games. So they're not close games with backups or close games in which they need like a late defensive stop. Like there's some of their close games you have to come back and win. And also again, some of their games like the Saints game this past weekend or like the Dolphins game, like their games where they were up and they were kind of dominating, and then by the end it ended up being a one-score game. So again, it's a little bit different in my own personal opinion. But again, I understand people's concerns because, like I said, they haven't beat a team by more than one score since the Jets like the beginning of in November, early November. Now, I will say to be in the season, outside the Chargers game, and then obviously the game that they lost, they beat, like I said, they beat the Texans by 2 scores, beat the Ravens by 2 scores, beat the Patriots by 2 scores, beat the Bills by 2 scores, beat the Broncos the first time by 2 scores, and like I said, beat the Jets. But every game since then, they won by 1 score. Panthers, Raiders, Bucks, Broncos, Dolphins, and now Saints, with the Falcons and the Chargers coming up. Like I said, they've won every single one of those games by 1 score, at least by the end, like I said. They were up 30-10 on the Dolphins. They were up, what was it, like 29-15 on the Saints. Up 32-22 on the Saints, with like 4 minutes left. So again, a little bit different, but by the end, every game was a 1-score game. And like I said, that's been the case for them the last month and a half, basically. So again, I understand why people are nervous, and they definitely are flirting with fire a little bit. But again, still have Mahomes, still have Travis Kelce, still have Tyreek Hill, still have Andy Reid. I have faith in them to come playoff time, as most people should. So again, I think everyone, even if you're worried about the way in which they're winning games, everyone more or less can say that they're the best team in the AFC right now. But who is number 2? And I think that's where the real conversation starts. So as of right now, you have the Bills, who are in that number 2 slot. Obviously, they've been playing better. Not playing better, but they've been playing well recently, I could say. Like I said, they've been playing good all season. They're 11-3. So it's not like they just started playing good. They've been playing good, obviously beat up on the Broncos on Saturday night. I don't think I talked about that game, but yeah, they beat up on the Broncos pretty bad. Josh Allen, another good game. So like I said, he's not going to win MVP. He was at another primetime game Monday night. Had a primetime game on Saturday. On that Saturday afternoon, I believe they had the early game against the Broncos. Again, it's not like... I mean, Mahomes had the bad game against the Dolphins, but this week, he was better. And then Aaron Rodgers, I know, he started out good, but then they kind of, like, faded and needed, like, some heroics to beat, especially defensively, to beat the Panthers. And so he didn't have his best game. And so, even though I don't think he's in the lead or anything like that, Josh Allen has definitely put himself in the MVP conversation. Which is, again, what I thought he could do with these last 4 games, especially with a lot of them being against, not really against good teams outside the Steelers, just on prime time, where people are going to be watching, they wouldn't normally be watching Bills games, and they're going to be like, oh yeah, like he's really good. And he has been good, not to say that he's been bad or anything. Like I said, the Bills are playing better, or I keep saying better. They're playing well right now. They are playing well. They have won every game since the Hail Murray game, which again, you could argue they should have won. So there's a reality where we're talking about the Bills being on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 game winning streak. The last loss being to the Chiefs, where again, they were just clearly the inferior team. Well, when they lost the back-to-back to the Chiefs and the Titans. Not in that order, but you get the point. So like I said, since then, they've been great, more or less. Or at least they've been winning, I should say that. Great's probably a stretch, but they've been winning their games. We got 2 more left, one against the Patriots and one against the Dolphins. The Dolphins will be interesting just because, again, that's a team that they could potentially face in the playoffs. So let's see about that. So that'll be an interesting matchup to see how that plays out, especially with the defense that they have, the way they turn the ball over, things like that. And that'll be something to keep their eye on. Like I said, the Bills have been very good. All season, their offense has been very good. It's top 10 in yards. Obviously, Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in the league this year. They're second in passing yards per game. They're, I think, like top 5. Yeah, they're 5th in points per game. And their defense is what had been the issue for a majority of the season, but it's getting better to where now it's at least getting inching itself closer to average than, like I said before, it was bad. Now it's back near average. Like I said, they still got some things to work on. Their pass defense is still about average, which again, it should be a little bit better. Their run defense is a little bit more below average. But again, that is what it is. Again, most teams are going to beat you running the ball. And then the points per game wise, like I said, they're still average. They don't have like an amazing like pass rush or anything like that. Obviously, they have guys that get sacks, but like I said, none of their guys on the defensive side of the ball are like having a great season sack-wise. They get turnovers though, interceptions, fumbles, things like that. So that helps. And then obviously Josh Allen has been playing amazing. So again, you can be an alright defense if your offense is great, and their offense has been great. So like I said, if their defense continues to round into form as the season ends, and Josh Allen continues to play like the Josh Allen of 2020 and not the Josh Allen of 2018 or 2019, then they got as good a shot as any to get into the conference championship in that conference. So like I said, you got the Steelers, who we just spent the last 15 minutes talking about the last 15 minutes before the segment, talking about how bad they are right now. So I think it's safe to say they're not the second best team, and we've kind of laid out why at this point. But like I said, I couldn't put them there at this point in time. We got the Titans, who I was unaware until earlier today when I found this out, that the Titans are actually tied with the Chiefs for most points per game this season. They both average 31.1 points per game. And obviously, they don't have the prolific offense that the Chiefs have. But they have a really good running back in Derrick Henry. I think, I'm pretty sure they lead the league in rushing yards, behind. I apologize to Lamar Jackson. They're second in the league in rushing yards per game behind Baltimore. Like I said, that's more of not a committee, but again, you got the quarterback added in there, you got multiple running backs added in there. Like a lot of the Titans stuff is just Derrick Henry, and maybe sprinkle in Ryan Tannehill every once in a while, maybe like McNichols or somebody else. But generally speaking, that Derrick Henry's the one who's getting the ball. And generally speaking, Derrick Henry cannot be stopped. So like, yeah, what is he? He's potentially going to hit 2,000 yards this year. He's about 300 plus, like 320 yards away with 2 games left. And those 2 games being against who do they play to finish out the season? I don't want to see the recent game. I want to see the schedule. I'll see ESPN making this difficult. They won't tell me who they play next. Okay. I forget. I think they play they play Packers this weekend, who don't have a great run defense. And then I think they play the Texans, who again don't have a good run defense. And the last time they played, Derrick Henry ran for 212 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, like I said, he's not out of the impossibility for him to hit 2,000 yards, to say. Tannehill continues to be what he was last year, and that's efficient. Again, his numbers aren't exactly eye-popping or like anything like that, but he's got... Oh, take that back. He's got 31 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Those are really good numbers. But the yards, he's only at like 3,500. And again, it doesn't have to be when Derrick Henry has almost 1,700 yards on the ground by himself. Completing 6-7% of his passes. Only got sacked 20 times this year, so not really getting hit a whole lot. Corey Davis is having himself a contract year, leading the team in receiving yards of 950 almost. A.J. Brown, they both missed 2 games, but A.J. Brown's having himself another great year. 56 catches, 881 yards, 10 touchdowns. So again, they have 2 good receivers. They got Jonnu Smith too, who they can use as a receiver, as a H-back. They hand the ball to him. They do different things, creative things with him. And obviously, they have a creative play caller that'll have some trick plays or do different things there. So like I said, if their defense can get it together, because that's really what's going to be the issue for them as well. The pass rush doesn't exist. And then, like I said, they're just yardage-wise, they give up a lot on the defense side of the ball, which is going to be difficult for them. Yeah, they're in like the bottom 6 in terms of yards per game. Their pass defense especially has been very poor this year. Bottom 4 in yards per game there. And then even like the points per game given up, like I said, they're bottom half of the league in terms of points. So again, their defense can get it together, or just again, if you have Derrick Henry run the ball, you don't have to get the defense on the field that often. All right, okay, that makes things easier for you come facing the Chiefs time, or if getting to the conference championship time, which again we saw them do last year, on the back of Derrick Henry. Like I said, the Derrick Henry's shown no signs of slowing down, so who's to say that they couldn't do it again? Obviously, again, with the slightly worse defense and literally no pass rush, but they can control the ball, control the clock, I should say, with Derrick Henry. And like I said, Tannehill and the offense continue to put up points, even if, like I said, the defense hasn't been that good. But these in terms of points per game, they're tied for the best offense in the league. All right. We know that our defense is going to give up some points. All right, well, we got to go out and score. And that's what they've been doing this year. more so than last year even. Like I said, the offense was good last year, and this year's version is probably better. Obviously because Corey Davis is better. Because A.J. Brown and Tannehill and Derrick Henry are about as good as they were last year, if not a little bit better too. But obviously Corey Davis and their second receiver is obviously a big step up from what it was last year. Even, like I said, he's even leading the team in receiving yards over A.J. Brown. So, like, there's a very realistic and possible chance that they have 2,000 yards receivers this year. Which obviously was not the case last year. So like I said, that'll be their big issue is, like, can their defense do enough against the good offenses that they may face? Like, again, if they face the Bills offense, they face a Browns offense, like, what could they do against them? All those type of teams, like, that'll be the big question mark. But like I said, offensively, they're crazy enough as it sounds, they're as good as any in the NFL right now. So, like I said, that's definitely another tough team. And that's funny things. They might not even be the best team in their division, depending on who you ask, because people think the Colts are better than them and may end up winning that division, depending on what happens. Like, this weekend will be the really big test, because again, Titans play the Packers, who they could lose to, and the Colts play the Steelers, who have been struggling recently. So you think, or if you're a Titans player or fan or whatever, you think, all right, the Colts can probably get that win, so we need to win in order to make sure we don't give up the division lead to the Colts with only one game left, knowing that the Colts can play Jacksonville to end the season, which is probably going to be a loss. Most likely, but again, thought the Bengals were going to lose to the Steelers. So what do I know? And especially after the last few weeks we've seen with the NFC East beating really good teams. Well, I guess the Steelers lost by Washington's a little bit more questionable now because they're not as good. But again, you've seen the Jets beat the Rams. Like, there's been quote unquote bad teams that have given the good teams either tough fights or beaten them. So like I said, you can't just assume that the Colts are just going to go in there and win. Just like you can't assume the Titans are going to go and beat the Texans week 17. Like, you just don't know. Especially with a quarterback as good as Deshaun Watson. If he's on, as he was in the last game, like literally, if they just got the ball first in overtime, maybe the Titans lose that game. So again, it's just one of those situations. Have to wait and see how that plays out. Like I said, this weekend will be big for that. Because if both teams win or both teams lose, then that won't affect too many things. But like I said, the Colts, they're another team up there that many people think. I don't think they're the second best team, but again, you could argue that their defense is really good. Their pass defense is really good. Their running game has been better recently, and Phillip also hasn't been turning the ball over that much recently. Like, he's only got 9 interceptions on the year, which again that's a far cry from what he had last year at this time, because that was really bad. Let me look. He had where is it? He had ESPN must have messed with me. He had 20 interceptions last year, so that was the big issue. He turned the ball over too much. Now, so he's cut that in about half, and you're seeing he's more efficient. He's at 22 touchdowns. He only had 23 last year all season, so again, he's going to surpass those numbers you would expect. And again, the offensive line is good. Their running game's been better. Jonathan Taylor might crack 1,000 yards on the year. Naeem Hines is good when he's been in there. Jordan Wilkins has been good when he's been getting carries as well. T.Y. Hilton's coming on recently, so I don't think he had as good of a game last game, but in general, he's been coming on recently. So again, you could argue with that defense. Maybe they are in there. And then obviously, I'll talk about the Browns, who their running game is as good as any in the league with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb back there. Like, they have the best 1-2 tandem of running backs in the league, clearly. Baker's been playing better, a lot better recently, especially. Their defense is still a little subpar, and that's going to be the big issue for them is the defense. Again, well, and actually the biggest part of the defense is the fact that Myles Garrett hasn't been the same guy since COVID. I believe you talked about being fatigued and things like that still. So that's an interesting thing to look into as the season goes on. Because again, that's their big joker on defense, that they have Myles Garrett. Even if Olivier Vernon's had a good year and pass defense isn't great. But again, Myles Garrett can change a whole game by himself. But if he's not Myles Garrett, then that makes their defense significantly worse. It's not that their defense was all that great to begin with. Like, it was already pretty. And now, like I'm saying, it could be even worse. I mean, it was like an average defense. The pass defense wasn't really that good. Like, bottom half of the league. And then run defense was that was more solid. It was like I said, more average, or more like top half of the league. And then their points per game was bottom half of the league as well. They're giving up like almost 27 points a game. But again, their offense had been digging them out of those holes, especially, like I said, especially running the ball. And then Baker, not really making too many big mistakes recently. Like I said, not really throwing a lot of interceptions, not returning the ball over, things like that. Like I said, recently. And then, like, finding guys in the end zone. We got 25 touchdowns to 8 picks through the air. Like, that's a very, based off of, coming off of what he had last year, like, that's really good for him. So, again, if they can rely on the back of their running back, and if over these next couple weeks, Myles Garrett can get back to being himself, I'm not saying it's going to happen this week or next week, but again, if he can, by playoff time, if he's back to being himself, and I'm not saying he's going to be, but if he was, then again, that's completely changes the dynamics of what the Browns could be come playoff time. And again, this is without even talking about them possibly winning the division. This is considering them as a wild card. Like, they could win the division, host their own playoff game. And they're going to have some fans. They're not going to be full, but they're going to have some fans there, which is, again, something that might not be the case for some playoff teams. So again, that could play a factor as well. So again, for my money right now, I'd probably go Bills as the second best team in the AFC currently. But again, you got the Titans are like right there, neck and neck with them, and they already beat the Bills early in the season, but they beat the Bills, so that matters. Like I said, you got the Browns, who are playing really good football recently. They have won. Okay, since their bye, the only game they lost to was to the Ravens. And like I said, you saw all that game. That was a game they easily could have won. If not for some late Lamar heroics. Like I said, they've won. I mean, they haven't played the best teams. Like I said, they beat the Texans, beat the Eagles, beat the Jags, beat the Giants. Obviously this past weekend, but that was Colt McCoy, and like they weren't really that good. They're going to play the Jets next week. Though, again, they did just beat the Rams. And they played the Steelers in the season. But the big one is that they did beat the Titans in a shootout. And again, it was a dominant performance by them in that first half. Again, they got a little bit closer towards the end, but they dominated the Titans in that first half. Like I said, that's the one that really showed them, like, oh, the Browns might be legit. So again, you could argue, like, oh, maybe the Titans are the second best team, but again, all these teams beat each other. And like I said, the Bills beat the Steelers. The Steelers have beaten the Browns once. We'll see what happens the second time. They smoked them the first time. The Browns have beat the Titans, who beat the Bills. So like I said, it's just all a mismatch at this point in time. And they also beat the Colts, too. So, apparently they run the AFC South right now. Swept them. But then they also lost to the Raiders. So it's like, it's a very weird dynamic for the Browns right now. It's a weird dynamic in the AFC as a whole. So as I said, for my money, I'm going Bills as the second best team. But like I said, there's at least 2 to 3 other teams you could pick. And I feel you can make a legitimate argument for them being the second best team in the conference. That's not the Steelers. Like I said, right now you can't sign on the Steelers right now. The way the offense looks, the way the defense is like slowly falling apart. Yeah, and it's still good, but it's slowly falling apart. You can't sign on the Steelers. You can sign on the Bills. You can sign on the Titans. You can sign on the Browns. I might even listen on the Colts. Dolphins, their defense, legit, yes. But like I said, offensively, rookie quarterback, I don't know if I'd go that far. Like I said, they're still a very solid team. But then, not even talk about the Ravens, who many people think if they get in, they could be a very scary team. Because again, they got the experience. They got an MVP quarterback. If the offense starts to look better, the defense is pretty solid. So, if their passing game is better and everybody's back healthy in the running back room and everything like that, and like I said, Mark Andrews is back and healthy and everything, like, hey, look, you could be looking at something there. So, again, I haven't even talked about the Ravens and if they get in, like what that could mean. But even like I said, they can't be the second best team right now. So like I said, I'll go Bills. But again, there's an argument to be made for a bunch of different teams in the AFC currently. Speaking of argument, the Pro Bowl rosters came out in the NFL. And there were definitely some people that were on there that were quite surprising. So we'll talk about those, and also, again, some people I'm happy for to finally get the recognition they deserve to make in the Pro Bowl. So we will discuss those after the break. Stay right there.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
So, like I said, Pro Bowl rosters were announced. I guess, what was it, Monday? Obviously, the game isn't happening, so it's not as big of a deal as it normally would, because, again, there's obviously no game, just going to be a bunch of Madden-related stuff. And that is unfortunate for some of the guys that didn't make it, because that means they're not going to have the chance to be able to get in, because normally, guys opt out, and, guys can't go, and things like that, but because of the fact that there is no actual game to be played, that is not going to be an issue, because no one's going to be going, or no one's going to be playing, or anything like that, so you don't have to worry about that. So that's unfortunate, like I said, for the guys that did, in fact, get snubbed, because there's just no way for them to get in there. But like I said, go through the AFC side first, you look through the starters and things like that, the guys that made it kind of sort of makes sense. Like I said, you got Mahomes, you got Josh Allen, Deshaun. You could argue somebody else in there for Deshaun, but Deshaun's playing well. Derrick Henry, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, A.J. Brown, Keenan Allen, Kelsey Waller. The linemen, the one I will say is that they didn't have Wyatt Teller in there, which is interesting because he's arguably the best guard in football. Well, actually, no, I won't get into that because we'll talk about him in the snubs. Defensively, you got guys like Myles Garrett and Joey Bosa and Chris Jones and Calais Campbell and TJ Watt and Bradley Chubb. Did not realize he made the Pro Bowl. But obviously, again, the guys like Bud Dupree got hurt, so that helps. Darius Leonard, Xavier Howard, obviously, Trey White, Humphrey, Stephon Gilmore, who got hurt, but like I said, they're not playing the game, so it doesn't matter. Minka, Justin Simmons, Tyrann Mathieu. That's the AFC side. On the NFC side, you got Rodgers, Wilson, Kyler. Shout out to Kyler. Dalvin Cook, Kamara, Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, DK, Justin Jefferson, which was a surprise, to say the least. Not to say that Justin Jefferson didn't deserve it, but just again, you didn't think they're going to give it to a rookie. Hockenson, Evan Ingram, we'll talk about that one. Looking through the line, like I said, is what it is. Defensive ends, you got Cam Jordan, Brandon Graham. Wanted to shout him out because, again, he's been in the league, I think, 11 years. Been with the Eagles the whole time. He's obviously had his ups and downs in his Eagles career. More ups recently, especially. But never made a Pro Bowl. So again, this is probably going to be his 1 year to do because he's having a career year. First year he may ever hit double-digit sacks. He hasn't done that yet in his career. Got 2 games left to do it. See what happens. But his sack production definitely fallen off recently, so that's unfortunate for him. But again, nice for him to get that recognition. Also, Chase Young made it, so shout out to him for that. Obviously, he's had a dominant last few weeks. Especially the game last week against the Niners, or I guess 2 weeks ago against the Niners. But again, the production, debatable. Same with Cam Jordan, the production is debatable. You have a player on your own team that has double the amount of sacks as you. Alright, and we'll talk about that. Like I said, Aaron Donald made it, obviously. You got Zarius Smith, JPP, Bobby Wagner, Fred Warner, shout out to him for getting the recognition. Jalen Ramsey, Alexander, James Bradbury, shout out to him for getting the recognition. Buda Baker, Jamal Adams, like I said, guys like that. So, like I said, a nice list of people on there. Nice collection of stars, obviously. A lot of the names you would expect to be in a game like this. Obviously, it's not being played, but a lot of the names you would expect are there. So again, not that surprising. Again, it's just unfortunate for some guys because they won't be able to be one of those alternates or whatever because of the fact that there is no actual game. And like I said, when you get to the snubs and things like that, there was a couple that were pretty egregious, in my opinion. So like we said, we start with Evan Ingram. And again, not to start with him because he's not the only one that's egregious, but that was the one that kind of stuck out because you're like, whoa, okay, shout out to him. Because I think he was on a call with like somebody and like they told him and he was like, wait, really? Like, he seemed kind of surprised. Again, obviously everybody thinks they're good or whatever, but he did not seem all that sure that he was going to make the Pro Bowl. And I understand why, seeing as his catch percentage is not great. His catch percentage is, in fact, if we look it up for the season, he's catching 56.8% of the passes thrown his way. Not great. How many drops did he have this year? It doesn't say on Pro Football Reference. I think he has like 5 or 6, something like that. Like his drop numbers, again, not great. On top of the fact he only has 1 touchdown this year, lowest of his career, 572 yards on 54 catches. Yeah, that's all right for a tight end, but nothing spectacular. And you have a guy like Robert Tonyan from the Packers, big old Bob Tonyan, who has 10 touchdowns on the year, with slightly less yards and on fewer catches. So again, it's a situation where you're just like, oh wow, okay, that's interesting. Don't really know how that happened, but hey, teach their own. Like I said, that was definitely a tough one. If you're a guy that's like looking at, obviously stats aren't the only thing, but that just seems like a glaring omission. The quarterback one, I know obviously some people were talking about like, oh, Tannehill should have made it, or Justin Herbert maybe should have made it, but it's tough. Like I said, in the AFC, like they're picking AFC, NFC. You're not getting in over Mahomes, not getting in over Josh Allen. So again, that leaves one spot for everybody else. And like I said, Deshaun isn't having a bad year, and obviously he's very popular because, again, he's been at the Pro Bowl multiple years. So again, it's a situation where, again, it'd be one thing if Deshaun was having a bad year, like I said, like Evan Ingram, but he's got 27 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, over 4,000 yards, 110.6 quarterback rating. So again, not that he's having a bad year at all. Like you can't come in and be like, oh, like how did he get in? Like, no, okay. I mean, the team stinks, but like that's not what's important when it comes to the Pro Bowl. Like that literally doesn't matter. Now, Justin Herbert, playing in less games, has 3,700 yards, 27 touchdowns, 10 picks, and a 96 passer rating. And so again, it's like you're picking teeth here. Like it's very close. And again, like Tannehill, we talked about the yards. Obviously, he has less than Deshaun. He's only got like under 3,500, but he's got 31 touchdowns, 5 picks, and a 110.4 passer rating. So again, all these names are close. Again, people were talking about those guys being snubbed, and again, it's hard to say for certain, due to the fact that, like I said, those names are all pretty close. The stats are all pretty close. Again, Deshaun Watson is more popular than either of those two are. It is what it is. But again, obviously, they would have probably been able to sub one of them in because Mahomes probably won a Super Bowl, maybe Josh Allen, we'll see. But again, that was a tough spot to be in. The running back one that definitely hurt was the James Robinson, because again, Jacksonville stinks. I get it. That's why I didn't get in, because the fans just aren't going to do that. But, I mean, also he was undrafted. It's not, if he was a first round pick like Chase Young or Justin Jefferson, not to say that Justin Jefferson isn't deserving, but again, he got the name recognition being a first round pick. Like, James Robinson wasn't a heralded name coming in, and even though he's great, I think he's only behind Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook for rushing yards this season. Has 10 total touchdowns, 1,400 yards from scrimmage, things like that. Like, those are better numbers than Josh Jacobs has. Or Nick Chubb that's missed multiple games. Now, you could argue whether he's a better running back than them, but again, just this year, the numbers say what they say. And they say that he's having a better year than both of those guys. Again, both those guys have missed some time and been banged up, and he hasn't, and that also should matter to a degree. So like I said, that was definitely a tough one, because he was a guy on top of Justin Jefferson, on top of Chase Young, guys like that. Like, he was another rookie that could have gotten in. And like I said, he didn't. So that, like I said, that's a tough one to stomach a little bit. He's a young guy, will have his other chances, but like that's definitely a tough one. One, if you care about linemen, Garrett Bowles in Denver is definitely a tough one. Because he's allowed no sacks, only 7 quarterback hits, and 4 hurries in 521 pass blocking reps. This is according to the USA Today article about Snubs. Then obviously like guys like Eric Fisher and Larry Tunsil and Orlando Brown are all good, even though was Orlando Brown the one that got hurt, or Ronnie Stanley the one that got hurt? Because one of those Ravens tackles got hurt. So if it was him, that's a little unfortunate due to the fact that it was him, wasn't it? No, I think it was Ronnie Stanley. I will double check that for you. So again, if it wasn't him, then alright. It is what it is. I mean, like I said, it stinks. Yeah, Ronnie Stanley. He's the one that got hurt. So again, like I said, Garrett Bowles, it's hard. In Denver, stinks. It's hard for them to get placed in over those guys, especially when those guys are good. But again, if there was ever a year for him to make a Pro Bowl, it's probably going to be this year. And he couldn't do it. Unfortunately, again, not that it was his fault. And then another lineman, Wyatt Teller, is like very much clearly the best guard in football this year. He definitely should have made it over a guy like David DeCastro. And then even like, again, his own teammate, Joe Bitonio. If he's the best guard in football, that means he's better than his own teammate. So again, that's a tough one, in my own personal opinion, to leave him out. Again, this is fan voting. It is what it is. These kind of things happen. That one definitely is a tough one to leave out. Another one, obviously, that a lot of people were unhappy with was DeForest Buckner not making it due to the fact that only Cam Hayward and Aaron Donald have more total pressures from an interior defensive lineman than Buckner's 47. And that thing's at 28 run stops as well. So again, that's a tough one to omit when you got guys like, again, like the Calais Campbell's is like is that more name or is that more deserving? Like I said, that one hurts. Obviously none of the Buccaneers linebackers made it outside of JPP. So like I said, no Devin White, no Levante David. No, I mean obviously Levante David's used to not getting the Pro Bowl recognition. But Devin White, he has 8 sacks, 130 tackles, third most in the NFL. He has a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. So again, do I know for a fact that Bobby Wagner's been better than him this year? I don't. I don't watch the film. So again, but again, that's not really what it's about because most guys that voting things don't really watch all the film. Like I said, Fred Warner, I like him. I think he's been having a good year for a defense that's been pretty banged up. So I like him getting his recognition. But again, I don't know if Bobby Wagner. I have to look up his stats. But I would be hard-pressed to believe he has more than 130 tackles this year, with as bad as that defense has been in Seattle. I could be wrong, though. I have been wrong about things before, so I'm not going to sit here and act like I know everything. 126. So, again, not that far off. Okay, let me take back what I said about Bobby Wagner. I thought he was worse. He doesn't have the sacks, though, because the 8 sacks, he only has 3. So, that's a big difference. And another one that I thought was pretty tough and fairly egregious, in my opinion, was Trey Hendrickson, seeing as he is, I believe, second or tied for second in the league in sacks currently. He has 12.5 sacks on the year. And it's, again, I understand Cam Jordan's more popular and things like that, but there's not to say that he hasn't had a good year or anything, but like when a guy on your own team has double the amount of sacks as you, it's hard perhaps for me to say that you deserve the Pro Bowl over him. That's just me. But again, teach their own. Another tough one was obviously J.C. Jackson from the Patriots. He has 7 interceptions this year, I believe, behind only Xavier Howard. And again, interceptions aren't everything, but they should count. Oh, he has 8. Excuse me. Don't mean to shortchange you. He has 8 to go along with 13 pass defenses. So again, that's a tough one. Especially in the AFC, you got guys, again, Marlon Humphreys had a good year. I mean, I'm not that mad about that. Trey White's had a good year. Gilmore's had a good year, but again, if they've had better years than J.C. Jackson, debatable. And definitely debatable. Like I said, 8 picks, 13 pass defenses, very few will have that combination. Like I said, obviously Xavier Howard has 9 picks, so of course he's going to make it. But again, I'm surprised J.C. Jackson didn't get a little bit more love. And then some of the other positions, like again, there were just too many good players. Like I said, there's a couple of receivers that could have made it that didn't. Terry McLaurin's having a good year. You could argue if he could make it over Justin Jefferson, the lack of touchdowns that be hurting him, though the quarterback position's hurting him. There, guys like Jesse Bates in Cincinnati, he's having a great year. But again, just the competition at the position. Like I said, you're not going to make it over Minkah, Justin Simmons, and then Tyrann Mathieu. It's going to be tough for you to do that. So again, I think just the situation with the position stacked. And even Darius Williams on the Rams, he's been great as well. And again, obviously they made Jalen Ramsey made it. So it was going to be hard for both corners from the Rams to make the team. But again, he's another guy that's having a good year. Probably could have made over Lattimore. And seeing as he's allowed seven touchdowns, only 1 interception. That's a tough one. A little bit. So I said Bradbury, Jair Alexander, Jalen Ramsey. Can't really argue with those, but like I said, Williams, with what he's done, 4 interceptions, opponent passer rating of 53.8, again, according to the USA Today article. That's a tough one. Like I said, Jesse Bates, I think he just got a situation where he was a guy that was a casualty of too many good players at that position. So, like I said, a lot of selections that made a whole lot of sense. Like I said, I'm not going to nitpick the lineman ones too tough other than the Wyatt Teller one, due to the fact that, again, many people have consistently said Wyatt Teller is the best guard in football. Honestly, that's always interesting to see, and we won't know for a few weeks, but when you see the All-Pro teams come out versus the Pro Bowl, same thing like All-Star Game and All-NBA or things like that, just it's always interesting to see when fans have a say, who gets picked over, again, when the writers or journalists or guys that are at least paid to know a little bit more, not to say they do know more, but are at least paid to know more. When they pick they pick their guys, there's always again a little bit of discrepancy for some of the positions. Not every position. Like I said, a lot of these people that made these teams are going to make all-pro teams. But like I said, I think you have a chance to see a J.C. Jackson on there or Trey Hendrickson on there or even a Tanyan on there. Maybe not. Yeah, no, maybe. I don't. Like I said, it's probably not. I think there's only. I forget if they do all-pro by. No, they don't do all-pro by AFC and NFC. Like I said, Tanyan's not going to make it. So again, there's guys that have chances to make it. J.C. Jackson might make an all-pro team. Like I said, Garrett Bowles might make an all-pro team. Things like that. Like I said, they don't make the Pro Bowl because it's not as popular. And as I said, I've had I've had an anti-opinion on fan voting for a while. It doesn't work. Most fans don't really know what they're talking about in terms of, again, picking the best. When you're popular, all right, yeah, that's easy. But again, you see, not even just football, you see it in the NBA, you see it in singing competitions or dance competitions, anything where the fans have to vote, not always does the best person win or get selected. That's because, again, best does not always quantify as most popular. And that's what these things are, glorified popularity contests, which is, again, a lot of these guys don't even end up playing in it anyway. But just this one, it stings because these guys won't have a chance to become alternates and get selected in that way because there's no game. So, because they didn't make it and got snubbed, like I said, the Tanyans who should have made it, Trey Hendrickson, who probably should have made it. J.C. Jackson, who probably should have made it. Even Darius Williams, that should have made it. And Wyatt Teller, who should have made it. James Robinson, who probably should have made it. Again, those guys, there's nothing they can do. I don't have the chance. Like I said, I don't know that this may not be their only year to get it, but this may be their best year. If that makes sense. At least to get in as a starter. But at least the starter as in the original selected team, not as an actual starter, but as the original selected team. I said maybe they'll get in as alternates or things, or maybe, like I said, they'll have good years next year in a couple of years and they'll be selected then. But like I said, for this year, obviously there was some DeForest Buckner as well, some very clear and obvious omissions, in my opinion. But again, shout out to the Brandon Grahams of the world, shout out to like I said, Justin Jefferson, Chase Young, those young guys. They got that recognition. Whether they deserved it or didn't deserve it, different story. But shout out to them for these getting the recognition as rookies. Trying to think who else was I especially for James Bradbury, another guy who obviously on a bad team, but again he's very much deserving of it. A shout out to him for getting it. I'm trying to think anybody else that I was like overly happy for. And that's probably about it for me personally. Shout out to JPP because again, this is his story obviously with the whole hand and the fireworks and everything. Shout out to him getting it. Because again, he had to go through a lot to get back to where he was or where he is currently. So again, that's cool for him. I'm trying to think who else. Like no one else really that I'm like overly excited for. Darren Waller, it's a cool story. Again, I think he was Pro Bowler last year. I could be wrong about that, but if he wasn't, then obviously it's great to get it this year. After again, what he's had to deal with his addictions and everything, and how well he's played these last 2 seasons with the Raiders. So again, shout out to him. But yeah, after we come back here from this next break, seeing as we don't have a show the rest of the week, obviously you guys know what's coming up. It is Christmas. If you celebrate that, obviously not everybody does, but if you do, it is Christmas coming up on Friday. Got a lot of basketball to watch. So, again, we'll talk about... I was going to just do football, but again, since there's also basketball games to look forward to, I'll talk about some of the games I'm looking forward to just in general over this upcoming weekend. Not college football, because the non-college football playoff bowl games, like, why are we playing them? But whatever. We will discuss those things right after the break. Stay right there.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and One Championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So, no Thursday night football this weekend. But we do got Friday night. We got the Christmas night game. Christmas night game. What was that? Saints Vikings, I believe. Not exactly, one I'll be paying a whole lot of attention to. But yeah, still just a Christmas Day game if you don't feel like watching basketball. Basketball wise, on Friday, obviously there's a bunch of games Wednesday too. But again, that's just regular games. Friday, though, you got the Christmas Day slate. Obviously, Nets Celtics is one I'll be looking and paying a lot of attention to midday. That's the 5 o'clock game. That's their prime time slot, like after presents, but like before your like full on dinner, because of the Lakers Mavs at 8. Like that's when people may be eating, may have already eaten, they may be a little tired, having to get up early. I said that's a tough one. Or I guess sometimes the 5 o'clock one is tough because again, it depends on when you want to nap. Like I said, if you're more of a midday napper, then you probably miss the 5 o'clock. If you're more of a go through the day because you eat dinner early, like most people do, not my family, because that's just how we get down. But most people they probably eat earlier in the day, so that'll again be good for you. Again, it all depends on kind of how you configure your day. But if you do, on the time, like I said, Nets Celtics, that'd be a good one. Obviously, they smoked them in the preseason, but that is the preseason, not regular season. These games actually count, and as we talked about already on the podcast, like the Nets offensively looked great in this game. It'll be interesting to see if that can carry over into the Celtics game against a team that is obviously going to be full of better players and a much better defensive team than the Warriors are for some of the guys they had out there on the floor. So I'm looking into and paying attention to that one. I'm probably the last 3 games. Pelicans Heat is like a fine game on paper, but just like it's noon and like I don't care enough about either of those 2 teams to be that locked in at noon. And then even like the Bucks Warriors, after seeing what the Warriors are today, like they all primetime games for them, I'm probably going to be out on. Unless I hear Steph's going off in like the first half, then I might tune back in. But like I said, outside of him, and James Wiseman there's not really a whole lot of guys worth like really, really watching. I guess unless you're in the market for like a Kelly Oubre if he becomes a free agent next year, or even like a Wiggins potentially. But again, where he's getting paid a lot of money to not be all that good. He's not terrible, but he's not like first number 1 overall pick and max money good. So there is that. But then again, a lot of people are getting paid a lot of money that may or may not be worthy of it. That's just kind of how sports works. Like I said, not really too worried about those, but like Mavericks, Lakers, we'll be interested in that. Mainly because, again, Luka, always interested in Luka. LeBron, AD, always interested in those two. That's good enough for me. Like I said, I watch most Luka games on TV if I can catch them. And this was one I can catch. The late game, Clippers, Nuggets, storyline-wise, makes sense, but yeah, I'll see how I'm feeling on that one. Again, good matchup on paper if you're on the West Coast. Obviously, I'm on the East Coast, so it's a little bit later, 10:30. Well, I've been up all day. Don't know if I'm going to stay up and watch that. But if you're on the West Coast, it's 7:30 games. Again, that's much easier for you to do. But yeah, it's not a bad. Like I said, not a bad matchup. A matchup of the second round of the playoffs. Obviously, they're probably going to want to. If you're the Clippers, you're probably going to want to show like, hey, this is not last year. We're going to beat you and beat you guys. Like when we get up 10 or double digits, we're not just going to let the game slip away. So from that regard, it's going to be an interesting game. It should be an interesting game. And also, again, you got to see. Because Jamal Murray, much like Donovan Mitchell, much like a couple other guys, he's one of the people I want to see. Does the bubble translate to outside the bubble? Because again, that was one of the biggest takeaways for me, and a lot of obviously a big talking point was just like, all right, you guys are doing this in the bubble. Can they do it outside the bubble? Now, again, there's still no real fans or anything like that. But if you're in home arenas, you got to travel, you got to do different things that you didn't have to do down in the bubble. So I'm interested to see if some of these performances can continue. Again, it's early in the season, so there is that. But I'm kind of curious to see how guys like Jamal Murray, Donovan Mitchell. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell's been good, but like you get the point. Like some of those guys that look amazing in the bubble, just like otherworldly, like never played at a level this good before, can keep that up outside the bubble. And like I said, this will be an interesting game to look at to see if that test holds up. As I said, a solid slate, but obviously, like I said, there's more there's a few games I'm interested in more than others. And then, like I said, also you got it's 4:30. It's during the day. So 4:30, competing with the Nets, Celtics. That's a tough one because it's probably the best game of the day, in my personal opinion. I don't know if it'll turn out to be in the best game, but on paper, it's probably the best game of the day. Yeah, like I said, Clippers and Nuggets. It's like, yeah. But like I said, Vikings, Saints. It's an important game for the Saints because they gotta get Drew Brees back and make sure he's good and healthy heading into the playoffs. Get him more work, get him more reps out there. Because again, he looked terrible in that first half against the Chiefs. Looked a lot better in the second half. They moved the ball better. They scored points. So you're hoping that some of that can carry over into this game against the Vikings, who, again, they're not officially out of it, but like with the loss to the Bears last week, their season's kind of sort of done. And it'll officially be done if they lose to the Saints. And then again, for the Saints, again, you want to try to continue to keep pace with the Packers for a potential chance at the 1 seed still, seeing as they play the Titans. So that's a losable game, if that makes sense. Again, every game in the NFL is losable, as we've seen. But that's a game they could lose. And you're also with the Seahawks at 10-4 as well, so you got to keep pace with them. So you don't want to lose a game you shouldn't. And like I said, in order to keep pace, at least in order to keep the 2 seed and potentially get back to the 1 seed, you got to win this. You got to win these games. So we'll see what they do with the Vikings. And then looking at some of the other games over the weekend, I think we have Saturday games as well this week here. Bucks, Lions, Niners, Cardinals, and then you got Dolphins, Raiders, But like I said, the Cardinals-Niners game is interesting because it's only on Prime Video. So I am kind of interested in that one only because I want to see. I have Amazon Prime. I'm not gonna plug Amazon Prime here, but like I understand why Jeff Bezos is so rich. Let me just put it that way. I understand why he's so rich. I definitely helped him a lot out during this pandemic, unfortunately for myself, because I lost money and he gained money. So there is that. But I'm kind of curious to see how that game looks. Because again, it's different. It's not on Fox, not on NFL Network, not on CBS, ABC. Not ABC, but CBS, not on NBC. So I'm kind of curious to see how it works. I know they do the Thursday night games on Prime Video, I believe, as well. I usually just watch them on NFL Network or Fox or whatever. But I'm kind of interested in that just to see what it looks like on Prime Video. So I'm probably going to check out that one. And then, like I said, Bucks Lions, like the Bucks should win that game, you would think. Dolphins Raiders, like the Dolphins should win that game. But at least that one I might be a little bit more intrigued by because that one should be a little bit closer depending on, I mean, even if Derek Carr isn't healthy. If he isn't healthy, then that'd be kind of cool because, it's like 2 Hawaii quarterbacks. And I'm pretty sure 2 is from Hawaii. So that'd be kind of cool. I don't know how often that happens in the NFL, where 2 quarterbacks from the state of Hawaii start against each other. So that'd be interesting. I got Saturday games, and then Sunday, you got some good ones. You got, like I said, as we've been talking about, Steelers-Colts. Very important game for both of them. The Steelers got to find a way to start getting wins here before the playoffs. They only go into the playoffs on losing 4 out of 5 or even potentially 5 out of 5, depending on what happens with the Browns. And the Colts, like I said, you got to win in order to keep pace and have a chance to continue to have a chance to possibly win the division. Like I said, if you lose this game and the Titans win, I'm pretty sure it's over due to like the tiebreaker or whatever. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure it's like over for you winning the division. You'll still make the playoffs most likely, but winning the division's out. And like I said, they got a losable game against the Packers. They could win, they could lose. Like I said, you want to try to get this dub, so you don't got to count on the Packers beating them. Like I said, if you win and then they lose, now you're in first place. Like I said, that's what you want. So, and like I said, so both of these teams obviously need this win for different reasons, but both these teams need this win, and that's to be a big one. Also, another interesting game is Rams Seahawks. Obviously, the 4:25 game on Fox. That'll be a big one. Probably, I would assume that's probably the game of the week. I don't know. But again, that's big for the division because the Rams losing to the Jets allowed the Seahawks to go back into first place in the NFC West. Now, if the Rams can beat them again, because they beat them before, right? I want to double check that. They did beat them before. So I said they beat them, sweep them. Now they're back in first place again with 1 game left. So, and then they have the Cardinals coming up the week after. So, like I said, that's a game they could lose, they could win. They beat the Cardinals last time, but again, Kyler Murray's a little bit more banged up than he is now. So there is that. And they did just lose the Jets. So, I mean, at this point, anything is possible. Shout out to KG. So that's a huge one. A lot of playoff implications in that one. Titans-Packers is a Sunday night game. That'll be a very good one, in my opinion. Because, again, it's another situation where the Titans kind of need this win. And they'll know what happened with the Colts Steelers game by the time they play. So that's good for them because they know how much pressure's on them. Again, if the Colts lose and I think you win, then I'm pretty sure you lock up the AFC South. If you both lose, then again, you're at the same spot where you've got to win next week and you'll be the champ. Or, like I said, if you lose and they win, then you're a game back in the NFC South. Now you need them to lose to the Jaguars next week. Tough task. Tough to ask for, especially with that defense. So, like I said, they'll know what they need in that game heading in. And then with the Packers, again, you're not going to lose a division or anything like that. But to keep the distance between you and the Saints and the Seahawks and teams like that, you want to get in, and you're going to want to get a win here and try to lock yourself as much as possible into that 1 seed so you don't get the bye and everybody got to come to Lambeau in January where it's probably going to be cold. So like I said, that's a big game there. And I mean, as crazy as it sounds, we got some big ones in the NFC East as well. Washington plays the Panthers. That game was moved. I think it was a 1 o'clock game, moved to the 4 o'clock time slot. Because again, if Washington wins, I believe they win the division. I could be wrong about that. I do want to double check this. So hold on. If I look at the NFC East right now, yeah, I think if they win, okay. So I think if they win, and so I said no. I think if they win, they win the division. Well, if the Cowboys lose, I think they win the division. Yeah, if they win and the Cowboys lose, then they win the division. If they lose and the Cowboys win, then next week is for the division. And then if they lose, next week is for the division because the Cowboys play the Giants. And then if they lose and then the Eagles win, the next week is for the division because they play the Eagles again. So, again, a lot of implications in that game. The Giants also play the Ravens, so they still have a chance, but they would need to beat the Ravens. Probably not going to happen, but, stranger things have happened these last couple weeks. So, again, a lot of interesting things, and obviously the Cowboys play the Eagles. So, like I said, that's a pseudo-elimination game in the division because the loser is out, basically. The winner could still be out depending on what happens with Carolina and Washington, but the winner, I should say, I think that's what I said. But the winner is still alive if Washington loses. They probably won't be alive if Washington wins. But like I said, the loser, their season, at least in terms of division, is finito. So both teams are going to be trying to win. Obviously, Jalen Hurts will be back in Texas. He's from the Houston area, I believe. So not Dallas, but he's from Texas. Will be indoors, good weather. I imagine he's going to want to try to show out in Jerry World if he can. He's been playing well. This is these first two games of his career as a starter. See if he can build off that. I'll give the defense that isn't as good as the Saints or the Cardinals. Especially not against the run. Not that good. Passing, they're getting guys back healthier, so a little bit. Especially with the turnover, they picked off Mullins a couple of times last week, but that is Nick Mullins. That is kind of what he does, is turn the ball over. So, again, in theory, this should be an easier matchup for him. Again, ideal conditions, worse defense, things like that. But again, maybe some of the pressure being back in Texas, him wanting to show out, may get to him. But as he's shown in the first 2 weeks, he seems to have those emotions under control. So I don't think that'll be an issue for him. But hey, you never know. So like I said, a lot of interesting games in the NFC East, which is kind of crazy as far as bad as the division is. But there's a lot of games with serious implications, potentially. So like I said, that's important. And yeah, I think that's those are games I'm interested in. And obviously getting into other games, like Chargers Broncos. Want to see what Justin Herbert does. And the Jets play the Browns, see if they can win 2 in a row. And then even like I said, and the Bears play the Jaguars. If the Bears want to have a shot at making the playoffs, they got to beat the Jaguars. Again, Jets, Jaguars, seeing how the number 1 seed holds up. Both teams lose. Another team wins. Like I said, you got to see how that plays out. So again, a lot of interesting games in the NBA and the NFL this weekend. So a lot of sports to watch if you need something to do with your weekend. Which, I mean, some people are more free and more willing to go out than others. So maybe not everybody does. But if you're going to be cooped up in the house on a Saturday or a Sunday or obviously on Christmas, there's stuff for you to watch out there. So that's a plus. But yeah, that'll do it for me today on the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast. Now I want to thank you guys as always for listening to me talk about sports. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure you're always on top when we drop our latest stuff. Also, if you could please as well, give us a 5-star rating, write a nice review. Wherever it's your podcast at, it'd be very appreciated, very helpful. That's what you guys like, what you guys dislike, the ways we can improve, all that fun stuff. And also, if you're on social media, we're on social media, so you can find us there, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss, talk about your first impressions from opening night in the NBA. How the Nets look. How did the Lakers look? Are the Clippers for real this year? Is Paul George for real this year? Is he a dark horse MVP candidate if he kind of shows out? Like I said, all these questions, feel free to reach out to us and discuss. Like I said, but also some of your predictions, award predictions in the NBA, your finals matchup in the NBA again. Feel free to reach out to us and give us that. Talk about the Steelers, how terrible they are, who you think the second best team in the AFC is, Pro Bowl snubs, guys you happy made the Pro Bowl, guys you thought should have made the Pro Bowl, things like that. And also, again, any other thing related to sport that you are willing to talk about, feel free to reach out to us. We will definitely get back to you and discuss it with you, because again, we are just sports fans at the end of the day. So just feel free to reach out. And before I get out of here, as I always do, give a shout out to essential workers that have worked tirelessly through the pandemic to make sure everybody's as safe and healthy as they can be. The doctors, nurses, EMTs, first responders, firefighters, postal service workers, retail workers, grocery store workers, dollar store workers, anybody's been deemed essential. If I didn't mention already, anybody's been deemed essential during this pandemic, shout out to you, because you're doing a job that's rather thankless, depending, and is in conditions that may not be as safe, is around people that may not be taking the pandemic as seriously as you need to, or as they should be in general. So again, I know that's definitely tough to deal with. So again, if nothing else, I just want to show my appreciation for you in the way that I can. And this is, seeing as I have this podcast, this is the way in which I can do it. So again, shout out to you guys, any of you essential workers out there that have been, like I said, working tirelessly throughout the pandemic to make sure everybody's safe and as healthy as they can be. Also, shout out to FedEx, UPS, Amazon, all delivery services, Uber Eats, Postmates, DoorDash. I saw you can DoorDash, I think my mom was telling me you can DoorDash Macy's now. Or so I don't know if there's other retail stores you can DoorDash, because then people are ordering less food because there's less places open, or the hours are cut back or whatever. So these DoorDash people that use this to make some extra money, maybe you could do some other things. I know there's Instacarts and different things. So picking up groceries, picking up clothes, whatever. People don't want to leave their house, but they don't have to. So might as well do it. So again, shout out to all you people out there that are doing those things like Uber, Lyft, different things like that. They can make a little extra money and allowing people to do things that in a manner in which they feel is safe. Again, shout out to you guys there. Also, wear your mask. It's very simple. It's very easy. But that'll do it for me today. I've been Chris Blades. That has been my time. And until next time. Peace out.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.